I like the why your team won't win, why your team will win. These are the type of articles that I'm here for. Why your favorite NBA team won't win the 2025 NBA championship. Let's get ready to get mad, guys. So much respect to Dan Favale here. So much respect just knowing you're going to piss off every single fan base. It's, right. It's hating at the highest level, and we love that. That's the truth is we do love that, right? Let's get into it. Is this going to be all teams? All right, we're going all 30 teams. I mean, what? Okay, the Atlanta Hawks. What's the reason why? In a nutshell, Cooper Flagg isn't walking through that door until 2025, 2026, and when he finally does, it won't even be for you. Oh, shit. We are immediately throwing shade. It is crazy. I mean, I'm trying to think of, being an NBA fan, how depressing it must be. And we have some Hawks fans that are in the chat from time to time. So if you are a Hawks fan, please speak up. How frustrating and sad it must be to be, supporting a team that doesn't really have any ceiling or upside to speak of, and you don't even have your picks. Like, being a Clippers fan right now must suck. Being a Hawks fan, you just had the number 1 overall pick, Zachary Ricochet. There's at least something to be excited about. You still have Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, but knowing that there's a great draft class this upcoming season and you don't even own your pick. So even if you do end up sucking, there's just something depressing about that. It gives me a feeling, I don't know how to describe it. It gives me a feeling like, if you ever know if you're on a road trip and it's like late at night and you're in a small ho-dunk ass fucking town getting gas, and just this sort of feeling sinks over you. Just like, where am I? There's something so sad about this place. That's almost what you feel like. Boston Celtics. Let's see what they say here. Looking back on where Dallas was in 2022, 2023, the Kyrie trade saved the Mavs. Oh, yeah, in a lot of ways. Repeating is so 2018. Yeah, it's difficult to repeat. Not just in the NBA, but just in general. Like, it doesn't happen a lot in sports. I would say, yeah, the real question is the big man rotation. Like, if KP's hurt and Al Horford is getting older or hurt or just falls off, which is possible in the playoffs, there's a pretty decent problem for you, right? And the pathway to winning becomes much more difficult than it was a year ago. Like, sure, you went through the postseason run without KP, but Al Horford was really good in the playoffs. What happens if something happens to both of those guys, which is possible? Brooklyn Nets, common sense is a thing. All right, okay. Charlotte Hornets. Now be nice to my Hornets here. Let's see them sniff full strength for an extended period of time first. Okay. That's a good one. Paul, 26 months in the Slightly Delusional Club. My sports addiction fast is over. It's time to rage. Get back in here, you addicts. It's time to relapse. We're back. We are absolutely back. Yes, and look, I'm kind of hoping to drop a Charlotte Hornets video tomorrow. I've been a Charlotte Hornets guy in the past. You guys know that. What do I mean by being a Charlotte Hornets guy? Like, I've been saying that they're going to win the NBA championship? No. Saying that I've been a believer that they're a better team talent-wise than some people think. Wow, this is actually interesting. Former Suns coach Frank Vogel is a part of our coaching staff as a coaching consultant. Mavericks coach Jason Kidd says. It took a lot of begging, Kidd joked, but he was talked into it, and I'm happy he said yes. Well, okay, that's nice. That's a really nice assistant coach to have, Frank Vogel. But anyways, I will be back on the Hornets again. If they're healthy, they're more talented than you think. LaMelo Ball, I think, is a very, very good basketball player. We just haven't seen him. I think he's played 50 total games the last 2 years. Brandon Miller was great as a rookie. You just think naturally he's going to look better as a second-year guy. Miles Bridges for, all of the off-the-court stuff and why we don't really like that guy anymore. Didn't have a very good season last year, but he is a good basketball player. Mark Williams was hurt for most of the season last year. Chicago Bulls. Banners traditionally aren't hung for generational incompetence. Hey, don't put it past the Bulls. They might throw one up there. They might throw one up there themselves. They might put one up there. Cleveland Cavaliers. This team peaked in 2022, 2023. So I'll push back here against that. What was 2022, 2023? They lose in round 2 to the Heat, right? Isn't that what happened? Or to the Knicks in round 1. Have they not won a playoff series? No, because they did beat the Magic this past season. I'll push back a little bit against this one. I don't think the Cavs are a championship team, but I'll be devil advocate for this, because this article is why your team won't win the NBA championship. I'll play devil's advocate for all of these. The world is Mobley has a big breakout season, like the breakout season we've been waiting for, where Mobley was like compared to Tim Duncan. I mean, I'm not just saying that. That was shit that was said, and he has that type of. I mean, we're not going to get that ever, but he has something close to it. And Darius Garland goes back to being an all-star level point guard. And then you have a really good core 4. I like Max Strus a lot. Karis LeVert's a great bench piece. You know, Isaac Okoro had a pretty good season last year. Like, it's a good roster. And if Donovan Mitchell, who was incredible last season, plays like a top 10-ish player again, you know, that's a pretty damn high ceiling. It really depends on Mobley. Why are the Cavs never talked about? Because they're just a good team. They're not a great team. They're a good team where I think a couple years ago, everyone was sort of giving them the benefit of the doubt, like, oh my God, this is going to be a scary team. And they sort of disappointed. And Mobley's now reached that time of his career where all of the goodwill, all of the let's wait and see stuff with you is sort of out the window. And now it's like, all right, are you going to show us? Because we're bored and we're about ready to move on. Dallas Mavericks. The third best player thrown will fluctuate nightly. That's true. I mean, that's true. I will say, again, I'm playing devil advocate for all of these teams. They did make the NBA Finals a year ago, which tells me you're close. Like, I know that they didn't win, and it wasn't that competitive of a series, but if you make the NBA Finals, you're close to winning a championship, right? And the same thing could have been said last year. Like, they didn't have a solidified third best player. It did fluctuate on a nightly basis. It fluctuated throughout the playoffs as well, between P.J. Washington at times, Derek Lively at times. And I'd say, by and large, P.J. Washington was the guy who sort of took over there. I don't think that this is necessarily a problem for the Mavericks. More so, I think there's a world where you could twist it into being a strength, right? Where Clay, Najee Marshall, P.J. Washington, all of these guys, Derek Lively, can step in and have nights where they're the third best player. Like, I don't know if that's a bad thing. If you're Galaxy branding your way to scenarios in which Washington fills that void by punishing mismatches, driving into efficient floaters, and banging in threes all on a consistent basis, I recommend you first seek out consultations from a Charlotte Hornets fan. So is he just hating on every team? This is the first one I've read. Is he just really hating? This feels very hateful. I've seen and heard subsets of the hashtag MFFL Brigade talk themselves into Thompson helping out here in terms of ball handling, leaning on him to create for himself or others, or just genuinely dribble, and also feeling good about that. Dependable would be a choice. I don't think anyone feels that way. Like, I think we're cool with Luka and Kyrie creating. What the Mavericks desperately needed and wanted was guys who could just do more offensively, not just like creating for themselves consistently, but just being able to do that when the matchups and situations present themselves. And it is funny that he said this about the P.J. Washington. I do think, like, over the course of a season, it might be irresponsible to want that. But this is why the Mavericks won against the Thunder. I do want to point out, was the Thunder forced P.J. Washington to do all of these things he mentioned, and he did. Again, this is he's hating on every team. So let's. Denver Nuggets, scared money doesn't hang banners or something. He is hating on every single team. I respect this guy, man. He's really going for it. I thought that he would just raise a point for each team here. Raise a point for each team and sort of play devil's advocate. No. He's full-fledged hating. I respect him. Yeah, I mean, the Nuggets one is easy. We've talked about it a million times, that the departure of KCP, which I guess they couldn't. Could they have even matched that contract? Like, was the KCP situation similar to the Bruce Brown situation? The Bruce Brown situation being, we actually can't, like, just the rules is we can only offer you a certain number, and a team elsewhere just offered him a way bigger number. Or could they have kept KCP at that number, but they just didn't want to because of tax and apron stuff? We'll see. I'm so interested by the Nuggets. They've got to be the most interesting team in the league this season, I would have to guess. Detroit Pistons, not being built to lose doesn't mean you're built to win. Just a building year for the Pistons. I'm in on them. I think that their upside's pretty high. I mean, not this season, obviously, but I'm a believer in Cade. Ivy feels to me, this is kind of what I'm thinking for the Pistons this season. They're better than last year. Cade looks really good. Ivy kind of takes a bit of a step. Asar takes a step. They're still a bad team, not like traditionally good, but they show enough where you're like, okay, the Pistons are trending in the right direction. And I think Ivy could be a trade piece for when the Pistons decide it might be time to push the button a little bit, push the pedal. They don't have upside. You're asking for too much. Yeah, but when I'm saying upside, I'm saying like maybe they win 33 games. Like, I know Frank Vogel joined the coaching staff, guys. Bro, I got to say, it was immensely disappointing that you didn't have media credentials. If you were there with Nick, it would have been legendary, massive L with all due respect. Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a little bit a couple days ago. Admittedly, I don't know if I would have gone. I'm not really a reporter, so it's not really my thing. But yeah, maybe next year. Golden State Warriors. Trades are hard. Mike Dunleavy Jr. probably pretending to care about what's left of the Steph Curry era. I think they, so is it true that they had Red Night Media Day before you? I hope not. He might not be allowed on a plane. I'm not sure. Mike Dunleavy Jr., they didn't make any splash trades. I said and I can't hate on the Warriors now for not doing something like this because I said all postseason or all offseason long, I don't think any of these moves make them winners. Like, they're pretty much in a fucked situation. I think it's closed. I think the ceiling is done. I think that the window is closed, slammed shut. And now I think the idea, if Steph does ride out the remainder of his career with the Warriors, the idea is you kind of do like what the Mavs did with Dirk, where you're not going to win a championship, but you try to do things to build a competitive enough roster. I don't know. I don't see a pathway for them. Houston Rockets, come talk to us in 25, 26. Yeah, it's too early for them. If Jalen Green has a breakout or Amin Thompson has a breakout, you could probably talk yourself into them next year being like this fun, interesting. Let's say that they end up making the playoffs this year, right? 7 seed, 8 seed, mid 40s, upper 40s in wins. Then their championship prospects the next year look a little bit interesting. But Indiana Pacers. Properly sized wings matter. So this is some Neesmith slander. Giving Pascal Siakam more of those responsibilities will threaten to undermine Indy's already shaky presence on the defensive glass. Jarris Walker is, it seems, going to be developed in the vein of a wing, but will he even play for a team with immediate aspirations? It doesn't seem like it. No stars have signed with the Warriors, and no one talks about people not wanting to play with Steph like Luka. I mean, they did get Kevin Durant. Like, they did get one of the highest profile free agents in the history of the league. So, I mean, nobody really changes team in free agency anymore anyway. Like, that's not really a thing that happens anymore. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Indiana... I do love the addition of Siakam. And yeah, Neesmith is kind of small at the 3, but he does play up a little bit. But I don't think they're a championship team. Clippers, don't even need to say. Gestures wildly towards everything except the Intuit Dome's toilets. Oh, yeah. Do we need to say anything at all? The Clippers are so weird, man. They give me maybe the worst vibes in the league. Maybe the worst vibes in the league. That feels like a implosion. It just feels like come January, that's going to be a bad situation. Lakers, their biggest offseason acquisition, doesn't wear a uniform. So you guys know that I'm pretty high on the Lakers. And yeah, this is it. They didn't really add much talent in the offseason. You know, I think there's the hope is LeBron continues to do LeBron things and he's healthy like he was last year and AD's healthy like he was last year. And maybe you just get a little bit more lucky with who you draw in the playoffs and you don't have to fucking face the Nuggets who just you can't beat early. Like that would maybe be it. And maybe that JJ Redick is like a really good head coach. And that you finally find something at the trade deadline where you could, package D'Angelo Russell and pick for like a legitimate upgrade. Like that would be the hopes and dreams. Memphis Grizzlies, injury bugs, love to hate them. Yeah, I mean, we've already seen it. Vince Williams Jr. hurt, G.G. Jackson hurt, Jaren Jackson hurt now as well. They can't seem to get healthy, and I always sort of am shaky on teams that enter the season very unhealthy. Now I don't know. I don't know the extent of all of these injuries, but we already know G.G. Jackson is going to miss a lot of time. We already know Vince Williams Jr. is going to miss time. And again, I'm shaky on the Grizzlies. Like I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast earlier, and they were talking like how the Grizzlies could be the sneaky 1 seed in the West. And it feels like people are starting to reach that point with the Grizzlies where we're like, they could be the 1 seed. Miami Heat, teams around them got better. They didn't. This is this story of the Heat over the last few years, right? They had their miraculous postseason run, finals run. And yeah, it just feels like they've stood in place while other teams around them have gotten much better. Milwaukee Bucks, I didn't know they gave out coupons for ankle surgery. So it is interesting, right? The Bucks, you're reliant on old guys. Damian Lillard is old, right? Brook Lopez is old. Chris Middleton had 2 fucking ankle injury surgeries on both ankles. He had a surgery on each ankle. They're scary. What happens if they're bad this year? The Nuggets. Jokic isn't going anywhere. The biggest question really might be if the Bucks have another disappointing year. What happens? Like what happens? I think we could approach a Giannis asks out situation because there's not like a pathway for them. It's not like they've got a lot of young talent, right? Giannis is getting older. Like he's reaching the point in his career where next 3-4 years, we got to go. Brook Lopez is a geezer. Chris Middleton is a geezer who's had 2 ankle injuries. Damian Lillard is approaching geezer status as well. But if the answer is, we'll just trade Dame. If they're disappointing again this year, what will Dame's value be? Minnesota Timberwolves, the season doesn't care about next season and beyond spreadsheet. It's a good one. I would say the real limitation, and look, if we're talking about winning a championship, this is what the point of this article is. It's Anthony Edwards currently. I don't think he plays the way you need your star to play to win a championship. That's not to say he won't get there, but there has to be a playmaking leap that is reached by him before they are like real, legitimate championship contenders. Okay? Every other championship level player has reached it, right? Tatum last year reached it. Tatum was a good playmaker in the playoffs. He was. Anthony Edwards has to hit that mark. His playmaking was bad against the Mavericks. Let's not forget that game 2 doesn't happen if it weren't for his disastrous fucking turnover down the stretch of that game. Pelicans, angrily pointing at the depth chart. What is this? A center for ants? They also give me weird vibes. Them and the Clippers. Like, something just feels off with the Pelicans. You're telling me you're really entering the season with no center at all? Like, that was the plan? The plan has to be a midseason trade involving Brandon Ingram. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they already sort of know what they're doing, who they're trading with and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, Daniel Tice and Yves Messi and Zion Williamson being your center. I mean, that just can't be. Yeah, but Derek Lively was a lottery pick who was like a top 5 high school player. Yves Messi was, what pick was he? The 20-something in a bad draft? The Mavs had done that for 10 years. Yeah, and guess what? They were never real title contenders until they actually figured, hey, it's time to take the center position fucking seriously for once. Ingram for Robinson trade? No, they got to get more than that. New York Knicks. Dude, they said immediately Daniel Tice is going to be an important thing for them. In a nutshell, emptying the trade asset cupboard for a bunch of players who will combine to make fewer than 2 All-Star appearances on your team feels fraught. Oh, this is an interesting way to look at it. So if you want to say the Knicks, they still have some trade stuff, but they pretty much emptied their trade coffers for Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Cat. And I guess he's implying that out of those 3, Mikal maybe sneaks into an All-Star game, although I doubt it. Cat probably makes an All-Star game or 2 during his time with the Knicks just by, he'll put up really good stats. He'll be really good for them. They'll be good in just the New York market. It's an interesting way to look at their offseason, that they spent that much on good, not great players. They're going to be really good, though, and they're going to be contenders. The Knicks will. I do think that they'll be a little bit more disappointing at times during the regular season than people think. The real thing is Cat hasn't been a great postseason player so far throughout his career. OG Anunoby is constantly injured. That would be the scary things for me. It's like, well, if OG's hurt in the playoffs again and Cat sucks dick, then you're not winning. Oklahoma City Thunder, they didn't trade for Daniel Gafford at last season's trade deadline. Oh! Victory lapping after acquiring Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey is cool and invites likes and retweets. It's not that much of a feat when you consider brokering deals with the Chicago Bulls is a lot like stealing candy from an unmanned bowl of someone's doorstep with a signed scotch tape on the front that reads, take whatever you like. Happy Halloween. Adding Caruso is a home run for perimeter defense that didn't need one, and a single to double for an offense that could use his spacing, but pines harder for his shot creation. Oklahoma City will point out that Holmgren or Jalen Williams will grow into checking the ladder box. That's not a given. He's kind of spitting right now. We haven't seen enough from Holmgren on ball to make that claim, and Jalen Williams looked more like Buck Williams trying to play as Mo Williams of Adonis Williamses during the Dallas Mavericks series. Wow. Presti & Co. have contingencies for their contingencies and still boast the assets to make a multitude of moves should they deem it necessary. That's been true essentially since Presti learned you can trade for draft picks. And invariably, each year, the Thunder stand pat or trade the chance to force Gordon Hayward into retirement instead of obvious championship difference maker Daniel Gafford. So the Thunder, right? I do think they're the best team in the West. I do think they have a great chance of making the NBA Finals this year. What do they need? They do need J-Dub and Chet. I mean, he's right in that. Like, they really are banking on those two continuing to progress and taking big leaps forward offensively. And like he said, that's not a given, right? And it's funny. I was just earlier today having this conversation, really this debate with an OKC fan, OKC Thunder friend who's an OKC Thunder fan, about what their starting 5 will be. And I made the point for Hartenstein just because I like the pick and roll with him, and I like that he could be this like sort of playmaker who also offers size and rebounding, and his thought was Caruso. And I just thought Caruso was kind of redundant next to Dort in the starting 5, especially because, say what you want about Giddey, they need to replace that playmaking. They need to replace somebody who can just bring the ball up the floor and stuff. And Caruso, he can do that just fine, but he's not a good offensive player. Like, he's just not. I would even say that he's not like a floor spacer. I mean, his 3-point numbers are fine, but teams aren't like, holy fuck, we cannot let Caruso get off. Like Dort, his 3-point shooting numbers were good. Like his percentages were fine, right? 39% from 3 last year. You don't know what the Mavericks did? They gave him space. When he got the ball, they closed out incredibly hard because they knew that he couldn't do shit when he put the ball on the deck. It's going to be a pretty similar thing for Caruso. And yeah, during the playoffs, man, Shea had a great series against the Mavericks, but then J-Dub wasn't as good as they needed him to be. Chet hit a rookie wall offensively in like February. He was pretty bad from that point forward, just efficiency-wise, especially from three-point land. We'll see. I think they're going to be great. I really do. I think they get that J-Dub and Chet lead. I think those two are good enough, talented enough that I think it's safe to assume that they get better. And Caruso and Hartenstein are great additions, especially Hartenstein. I think it's such a good addition. But I don't think it's as much of a guarantee as other people are saying. I don't think there's any guarantees this year. Like I can't really think of one. The Celtics, their injury situation with their bigs is concerning enough. Everything else is up in the air for me. Defense without offense doesn't win championships. Yeah, the Magic have a championship level defense, but the offense needs to follow up. If there's a very big, I'm talking like, sometimes you see it, it's rare, but a very big Paolo leap, where we're getting to like top 10, maybe even pushing top 5 conversations with Paolo, which I don't think is impossible. He's shown flashes of being a player that can reach that this season. Their ceiling's pretty high, I gotta say. I really like their team. But it really does kind of depend on something like that happening. Sixers, Paul George is subtraction by addition in Norman Powell's completely unbiased opinion. That was wild. Norman Powell said that. Pretty much everyone has extolled the Philadelphia 76ers offseason to no end. They poached George from the Los Angeles Clippers while piecing together a real, actual rotation around him. Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Except, did they really? Powell called George's exit from Los Angeles Clippers addition by subtraction. I think that was just him maybe misspeaking or maybe not using the right words. Frank Vogel joined Mavs as a coaching staff. I know, guys. I have to emphasize this again, and I don't want to sound mean or asshole-ish, but it's just anytime I'm streaming and talking about something else, then people come in and say things. If it's something involving the Dallas Mavericks, trust me, if it's older than 20 seconds, I promise you I've seen it. And if I'm live streaming, then chances are that we've talked about it. And as for this depth around the stars, so many are commending. Do we just not care about primary front court slot next to Embiid? George, Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre Jr., Yabusele, and KJ Martin will all, as of now, have to lend a helping hand at the 4. Should be contenders. Definitely like heading into the season with people wondering whether they should start Yabusele and bring Martin or Oubre off the bench. Yeah, I mean, all things considered, they definitely had one of the best off seasons, maybe the second best behind the Thunder. But it's not a guarantee. This is what I'm saying. There's no guarantees this year. Like, so many different things can happen this upcoming NBA season. So many non-wings for the Suns. They're just not constructed like a championship roster. That's what you can say. Nurkic, in really no way, is the type of center you think of when you think of championship, a championship winning team starting center. You don't think of a guy like Yusuf Nurkic. And yeah, they don't really have defensive wings. Like, this is not a team defensively you just look at and think, yes, his defense is good enough to win 4 straight playoff series. Offensively, if they're healthy, they're going to be a fucking nightmare. They're going to give up a lot of points. Portland Trailblazers, having concepts for loose outlines of unfinished blueprints for a plan isn't something about which to brag. All right, see, like, I think he's being too mean, a little too mean to the clearly rebuilding teams. Like, we get it, man. The Blazers aren't going to win. Like, you can just say they're the Trailblazers. Like, and that's good. I like what they did this offseason, right? Simon, Sharp, and Scoot, like, at some point, you're going to have to work your way around that. I like that they have some, like, young centers, like Ayton and Klingon and Robert Williams, and they could trade them, right? I like that they went out and got Deni Avdija. It's not traditionally what you would think because they're not contending, but he's young enough that, hey, fuck it. We'll go get him. I don't think we have to be this mean to the obvious non-contending teams. Your defining offseason acquisition is a ball-dominant, non-floor spacing 35-year-old. This is what I've been saying all offseason. It's fun. I get it. Kings fans are really, really excited that DeMar DeRozan chose their team. This is a guy who's made so many All-Star games, All-NBA teams, like one of the more popular and well-known players in the NBA. I mentioned before how in Europe this past year when I went to they had, I think it was in Amsterdam, I don't remember where, there was a small NBA store, and I went in, and they had 4 jerseys on the wall. There was a LeBron James jersey, a Giannis jersey, a Steph Curry jersey, and a DeMar DeRozan jersey. Like, he is a wildly popular player, probably more popular than you realize. And getting him is exciting for a team that really doesn't do much in free agency ever. The fit makes no sense at all to me. None at all. If we're talking like wanting to compete and win a championship. San Antonio Spurs outside shooting anyone? Yeah, I mean, again, it's like I said with the Trailblazers. Like, we know that these non-contending teams aren't going to win a championship. Toronto Raptors, because Jakob Poeltl said so. That's true. That is true. Utah Jazz team CEO Danny Ainge will learn from his mistakes. What do they mean by this? Ainge will not be outmaneuvered by the team he built again. He knows better, and so I put together a list of things more likely to happen than Utah being accidentally good this season. All right, so he's basically saying that they're going to be tanking for Cooper Flagg, and Danny Ainge will not be stopped in his pursuit of this. Head coach Will Hardy will receive a 20-game suspension. Markkanen will be sent to separate road trip itineraries from his teammates that have him arriving to the Jazz playing 160 minutes after it takes off. When Markkanen does not make the plane on time, the Jazz will fly to the wrong city. Oh, when Markkanen does make the plane on time, the Jazz will fly to the wrong city and be forced to forfeit the game. Drew Eubanks will start at point guard. Oh, I actually did not know Drew Eubanks was on the Jazz. Before potentially winnable games, Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton will get informed they're about to be traded and held out while the details are finalized, only for those transactions that never existed to fall apart at the last second. It's a good one. Cody Williams will miss 6 to 8 weeks after burning the roof of his mouth while eating ice cream. Okay. Injury reports, I hate when that happens. Injury reports will include ailments such as Taco Bell indigestion. I hate that one, man. You fuck around and spend $30 at a Taco Bell. Nothing good comes from it, but so much good does. Bruised fingernail. No, hey, bruised fingernail sucks. Okay. Morning pair of lost AirPods. Been there. I've actually done multiple mornings when it comes to lost AirPods. Thought I lost a pair of AirPods. Mourned it. Bought new AirPods. Right. Went up a generation. A little bit more expensive. Had to get them, though. And then only a few weeks later, found the pair of AirPods that I once previously thought were missing. And you might think that's a good thing, but now I have 2 pairs of AirPods. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with both? DNS did not sleep. Borrowed DeAndre Ayton's gravel. And Lego stuffed mattresses. As well as a variety of injuries to made-up body parts named after obscure anime characters. Every single time Chris Paul goes to a new team that has a young core, he transforms them into a competitive bunch. That's what happens when you get winning veteran players. And Washington Wizards, they're attempting to do the opposite. Yeah, I mean, that's all you can say for all of these teams. That was a fun little article. Who was it? Who wrote it? Dan Favali? Hating. You got to respect it. Everyone's going to hate it. Do people still comment on Bleacher Report articles? Is that still a thing?